conversation for the night. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we starting to talk about this is a new year. Again, we're day 7 in. A lot of times during this year, people are going out and they are setting goals. They're saying, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to lose this weight, I'm going to stop eating this, I'm going to put on some extra weight, I'm going to get some muscles, I'm going to get married this year, I'm going to find my husband, I'm going to find my wife, I'm going to get that job on and get that promotion. It's a lot of different things that's going on in people's heads right now. Concerning their future journey for 2025. But before 25, we need to start thinking about 2024 a little bit, So with that being said, coach, we get goals, but a lot of times we get these goals because maybe we didn't accomplish something in the past, right? Last year, well, for the last 15 years, there's probably someone who has said, you know what, this year, this is my year. I am going out and I am going to lose that weight this year. I am going to lose that 30 pounds no matter what. I'm going to do it, and then the next year they didn't do it. And next year they didn't do it. And then 14, 15 years passed down the road. And then 2024 hit and they said, I am going to lose my 30 pounds. It didn't happen. Now, here it is, January 7th, and a few days ago, someone set this goal again. So, how does reflecting on the past year help in creating meaningful goals for the new year? Now, I don't know if any of that had anything to do with this question now that I look at it again, but either way, how does reflecting on the past year help in creating meaningful goals for the new year?
Yeah. So this is the reason why I love this question. First and foremost, I didn't even know that this was a question, because this kind of goes into what I was saying earlier, right? Um, but here's the thing. I let me talk about myself for a second. And I think if I use what I went through, it kind of helps this to make a lot of sense to other people. Not saying that they don't have the capacity to understand the question, but I'm talking about taking the question, coming up with an answer, and then having that answer being practical in your life. Um, when I did self reflection for 2024, it wasn't the fact that I was questioning whether or not the goals themselves were meaningful, because during the creation process of the goals were created based upon the thing that I feel that I'm called to do. So when I created those goals, I set milestones. Well, I'm sorry, when I created the goal for that year, I set milestones to goal accomplishment, and then that was part of the reverse engineering process. And so then there should have been benchmarks along the way to accomplish it. So when I went back and did some self reflections, it's not that the goals weren't meaningful themselves. It's that I needed to make sure that I had the accurate milestones, and then whether or not the benchmarks led to goal accomplishment. So in doing so, some of the things that I realized is that the goal, like I said, the goal was meaningful. The milestones was like authentic milestones to get to the goal. It's just some of the benchmarks I did not accomplish, and then I had to get to the point of understanding the why. Why did I not accomplish those benchmarks? Did something else come up? Did I lose motivation behind this thing? Did some other things take priority within the scope of that? So I think for me, when it comes down to understanding the how is going back and identifying whether or not the goal was an accurate goal to set, whether or not the milestones were in line with goal accomplishment, and whether or not the benchmarks lined up to ensure that you achieve milestones in the direction of the goal accomplishment. So when you create goals going forward, you don't change the process. The process still works. What you have to do is change your approach to the process. Maybe there's some distractions that I allow to interfere, which prevent me from accomplishing said milestones in order to get to accomplishing a goal. Maybe it was some distractions that made me delay some of the benchmarks that I actually had. So it helps me to be more specific, to prioritize things accurately, to ensure that I accomplish those particular benchmarks leading to the milestones that get to the goal of being accomplished. And at the end of the day, it's not that the goal that I had for 2024, if it wasn't accomplished, I would throw the goal away. No, we just moved the goal to another year as long as I am still moving in that direction. Or maybe that goal needs to be elevated because maybe I'm at a different stage now in 2025 in that particular thing. So now that helps me to understand when it comes down to reflecting on the past year. The past year allows me to analyze myself, analyze my behavior, analyze my posture, and identify where my priorities lie based upon setting goals for the new year.
All right, so when I when I look at this question, how does reflecting on the past year helping create meaningful goals for the new year? As mentioned before, I think some of it is just pulling something we do on a regular basis out and looking back at the whole entire year. You know, like you mentioned, um, just because you don't accomplish a certain goal does not mean that it was meaningful. When I look at this word meaningful, I think it's very subjective, and it is also, in order for something to be meaningful to you, I think it's important that it kind of line up with some other things that are in your life. Like, I think sometimes people have intentions to create meaningful goals, but they're not really meaningful to them. So, and I think that's sometimes where people don't really accomplish them. Like, if you really don't like going to the gym, I mean, just being honest, be honest with yourself. Like, look, I really just don't like going to the gym. So, when you have a goal, a meaningful goal of saying, hey, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, then that may be part of the reason why you having to start over every year. I think that if you say, hey, look, I need to lose weight, so I need to come up with a form of activity or exercise, that's a lot better. That's more meaningful, I think, because that's something that you know you need to do, but you're not subjecting yourself to something that you just hate, that may potentially cause you to not stick with it. So I think I was on it, but I think I may be off a little bit as I start thinking about it a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, regardless, I think that somebody can grab something from the words that I said.
But I don't think you were off at all, if I'm being completely
No.
honest. No, because what you did was you assigned meaning. Like if so,
Mm.
when we go back, like you said, I don't think people a lot of times assign meaningful goals. Right?
Yeah.
We got to remember that meaning is assigned, which means
Mhm.
the goal for us must be rooted in something concrete to us.
Mhm.
For if the goal is rooted in something concrete, it gets us, it moves us closer in the direction that we're supposed to go. So
Yeah.
now, because what you were talking about, if I can relate what you were talking about to what I was talking about, when you talked about the how, those are the benchmarks, right?
Mhm.
So in order to get to the milestones, I have to assign benchmarks. What is the benchmark?
Yeah.
Well, if the goal is, and I'm just using the weight loss thing because that was it. If the goal is for me to lose 20 pounds by said date,
Mhm.
really, really not a meaningful goal unless it's a health related issue. That's just my thought.
Mhm.
However, if the goal is for me to lose 20 pounds by said date, then now I have to back it up and say, okay, what are the milestones in order for me to lose 20 pounds by said date? A lot of times
Mhm.
we'll say it means I need to lose this amount this time, I need to lose this amount this time, this amount this time, right?
The benchmark.
Benchmarks, yes. No, I'm sorry, milestones.
Milestone.
Those are the milestones, right? And so the milestones help me to see how good, how close I am to achieving said goal, right? So 3 to 4 pounds. What is it? No, I'm sorry, 2 to 5 pounds within a week is healthy, right?
Mhm.
From a scientific perspective. Now, of course, there's slight variations from person to person, but that's kind of like what it is. So 2 to 5 pounds a week is a healthy goal, i.e., that being said, anywhere between what 8 to 20 pounds, right? So as long as I lose 8 to 20 pounds in a month, i.e., that's healthy. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not that guy that advises the 20 pounds. I
Mhm.
scale it down because it makes more sense. So 2 to 4 pounds, which equates to 8 to 16. So anywhere between 8 and 16 pounds a month is healthy. That person that loses 16 pounds a month, they ain't got no job. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Mhm.
All they do is eat and work out and sleep and eat, work out and sleep, and that's all they do. However, comma the the milestones are the things that lead me to the 2 to 4 pounds a week. So what does that look like? I'm going to the gym four times a week, if that's the case. If you want to go to the gym, or more specifically, I am doing about 10 hours of cardio. You got to start somewhere. 10 hours of cardio a week. I'm doing X amount of hours doing this and X amount of hours doing that, right? Because you have created a workout plan. And so when you create a workout plan for yourself, that also includes what you eat. So when you look at what you're eating, you're saying, okay, well, I'm gonna consume anywhere between 15 to 2,500 calories a day, as long as I'm doing 10 hours of cardio a week, blah, 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 blah. So now those would be the actual milestones that get me to the benchmark. And then the benchmark is what's going to get me to the goal. So when we say whether or not the goal is meaningful, that's why I start off by saying I don't think a weight loss goal, unless it's tied to a health specific thing, I don't think it's for me. And I have to stress that I don't think that it is a meaningful goal, because at the end of the day, me losing weight is not what I'm called to do. It should be a behavior that I have to where I don't put the weight on. But that's a whole nother conversation, because we understand that people put on weight for certain things. Some could be medical concerns, some could be emotional concerns, whatever that looks like. So, getting more specific to a more concrete goal, right? Say, like something that we really want to do from a business perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
now you do the exact same thing. What is it that I need to accomplish step by step to get there? Those are the milestones. I mean, those are the milestones. Now we got to come up with the benchmarks to accomplish the milestones.
Man, I like all of that. Um, I mentioned it backstage, but I'm gonna mention it again to you, and I'm gonna mention it to the chat and the people watching. So, um, things, a couple of little small changes or adjustments. One of the things that we want to do, is just have certain talking points, because sometimes we will hear a talking point on social media or TikTok, and we just like, man, I kind of want to know more about that. And it's not really asking a question; it's more so just a talking point and something that people can share and people can explore. So, with that being said, folks, this is our first kind of sort of talking point. So it's not a question; it's just a statement that's been put out there, and we're just going to expound upon it. So the statement is this: focus on small, consistent wins instead of overwhelming resolutions. What say you, Mr. Mindset Coach?
I agree.
We
Initially,
ain't
uh,
even at true false yet. Look at
I
him. We
know, I
already
know, right?
ready.
No, here's why I say that, because this statement literally sums up what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can't give myself credit for the small things because I'm so focused on the end goal,
The
then
milestones,
right, if right, the benchmarks.
the
If I
benchmark.
yeah, if I can't give myself credit, like going back to the weight loss thing, if I do 10 hours of cardio, that's a pat on the back. Like I gotta
Mm-hmm.
give myself credit for that. Right. We're for a person who's just beginning, we'll give them a cheat day. Right. So you get a cheat day if you accomplish said goal. Right.
Not
Now,
me.
well, I get it, because you're
I
more
don't, get,
conditioned.
I don't give out cheat days.
You're
My
more
clients
conditioned.
don't get cheat. They get cheat meals. They don't get no whole day.
Well, that's
No.
what I meant. I'm sorry. That's what I
Yeah,
meant.
but no, but there are, but cheat day is a thing too. So
Correct.
yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. So they get a cheat meal. And so that cheat meal is a half a portion of something that they really want. And I do mean a portion, not the ones you used to get back at home. Right. So if you go get a bowl of ice cream, I ain't talking about the ice cube cornflake bowl ice cream. No,
Yeah.
we're talking about a single cup scoop of ice cream. Cut that in half. That's your cheat. Right.
Hmm.
That's your reward for achieving that small win. That small win was the 10 hours of cardio. Now, here's the other part that I didn't tell, is that every Sunday for me, when I used to do it, every Sunday was a fast. So
Mm.
now what you're doing is you're shocking your metabolism into working for you, not against you. So what does that mean? That means that once you go on that strict diet of 1,500 to 2,500 calories a day, in conjunction with the 10 hours of cardio a week and the 10 hours of doing this and the 10 hours of doing that, in conjunction with the muscles that you're trying to build and along the path, where every Sunday is a 24-hour fast. So now you're speeding your metabolism up because during the week you're eating anywhere between 4 to 5 meals, which means that you're turning your body to expect you to eat that often. And then on Sundays, when you go to eat that often, now your body's like, okay, well, since you ain't gonna feed me, I'm just gonna burn up some stuff. And what do you think is burning up? It's burning up the stuff that it stored up for a rainy day, which is fat. Now, caveat, disclaimer, that was not advice that I'm giving to anybody. So if you do what I just said and it don't work for you, don't come say with me. Coach, you said
Yeah.
nope, nope,
Coach
nope,
said it.
nope.
Coach said I got to fast every Sunday for 24 hours
That
and
wasn't
eat
it.
ice cream and cornflakes the day
Those were
before.
examples. Those were examples I used because that's
Uh-huh.
what I used to do when I was a personal trainer. That's how I used to train people. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I would tell you is that 24-hour fast is difficult. So cheat days normally happened on Mondays. But guess what also happened on Monday? That first day of cardio. So it's
Yeah.
cheating, but it's also, in conjunction with those things. So when we look at focus on the small, consistent win, it is a thing to where you don't lose motivation because trust me, especially when you start doing these things, it gets more difficult first. It's going to be hard in the beginning. You're going to go in there with a lot of motivation. You're going to see it like right now. Everybody sitting in the gym. Everybody say,
Mm-hmm.
I got to get this summer body ready, right? But trust me, when that lactic acid starts kicking in and them old habits, hey man, we used to watch TV all the time. You done left me a bad TV. Like, man, listen, what happened to our relationship? We had a good thing going.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The stove and the refrigerator, and like, hey, we got all this food you don't put up in here. We're gonna go bad if you don't eat it. So all of these things in your mind gonna start kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn how to push through those things. So another small win is that maybe midnight eating was a thing. But then when midnight eating, when the midnight urge showed up, you decided to go get some water instead. That's a win. Give yourself credit for that, right? It's a very small win, but it is still a win. So I think when we look at this, the small, consistent win technique is the thing to where it continues and prolongs the motivational factor. But for me, I don't like motivation because we know we say about motivation. I like inspiration. You need to be inspired to do the thing that you're trying to do. And that's kind of like why I said what I said about using weight loss as a goal. I'm not against it. I think there are some people who should view weight loss as a goal, especially when we start getting into health related concerns. But I think at the end of the day, if it's purely cosmetic, mm, just my thoughts.
Yeah. Um, as you know, the word consistent is in there. So this is right up my alley. Um, we mentioned earlier, beginning of the year. This is, our second, third year. Being on YouTube, having shows, podcasts, different things like that. This is episode 40. We have had to be consistent each week in order to get to this overwhelming resolution and to get to where we are right now. In order to lose weight, you have to be consistent. In order to get that promotion, you have to be consistent at something. You probably have to be a good employee over and over and over. But like Coach said, the focus on the small, consistent wins is huge. There's nothing wrong with looking at the big picture of how you're going to look in that itty bitty yellow polka dot bikini. There's nothing wrong with having that vision in your head. Have it. You need to have that. You need to have that along the way. But you also have to be okay with saying, you know what? I did my 10 hours of cardio this week. You know what I'm saying? Because in week 2, you may only get 6 hours in because life may happen. So you can't go back and be so hard on yourself for those couple of hours that you didn't get it in. You know what? You at least you got 6. Before you did that, you did 10. Before that, you were sitting on your butt for the last 8 months. So you are making progress. You're making small, consistent win, small, consistent progress. Everything, every adult who is watching this show was a child. And when we were a child and we were born, we had the same exact muscles. We had biceps and triceps and quads and ears and nose and teeth. Well, not teeth. But over time, with consistency, our muscles got stronger, they got bigger, they started to grow, and so this just part of life. A lot of times we do like to focus on the big picture. When I get my degree and I'm walking across the stage, have the thought, but there's a whole bunch of classes and late nights and study halls and encyclopedias and videos and data that you're going to have to look at and consume before you get there. And that's okay. And after a certain amount of time, like you take somebody right now who's a sophomore in college. Last year they may have been a freshman. Small consistent wins over and over, passing class after class to get to where they are right now, to eventually they're going to be walking across the stage at somebody's university. So again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's really huge to focus on those small consistent wins, but
Difficult,
not neglecting the overall goal. But don't let that be the only source that you're pulling from.
difficult question coming. You mentioned this is our 40th episode on Coach
Mhm.
Corner. Um, there's a degree of consistency there. I
Yeah.
would say. What is your small win when it comes to Coach's Corner? Like and
Mm.
I'm asking this for a reason. Like we when we got together and we talked about it and we planned it, and you I know you remember those days because we would get on here. To everybody who's listening, we would get on StreamYard and we'll have just a video conversation with he and I alone, and we would plan out how we want the show to go. And some of the things we talked about, came to fruition. Some of the things we talked about then, we're still trying to bring to fruition, right? Um, if you could say what is your for you for the Uncle Junior, the consistency coach himself, what would you consider your small consistent win with Coach's Corner?
Um, my small consistent win is probably small for the audience, but it's big for me.
Hmm.
Um, and it is something small only in the scope of time when we measure time. So that small win for me is has been building a relationship with coach and the coaching community. Um, when you get on here and you get to have a conversation with someone who has similar mindsets about things, it's always a good thing. It's we don't often connect with everybody, but it's always comforting when you can walk along someone who has similar mindset, going down the goal of life with you. And
Yeah,
then with that, is, people that I know and people that and they come in here on a chat and and they say, coach, Unc, I get that. Unc, I rock with you on that. Coach, I get you, I never heard that before, so it's because of these small wins is being able to have a place to come and share and chat and have a conversation with every single weekend, and then everything that this provides us with. So for me, I guess if can kind of narrow all of this down and shrink it down to a bite-sized piece, it would be my small win has been the ability to create and maintain relationships over the last 40 episodes.
I like that. Um, and for everybody who's listening, he had no idea I was going to ask that. I
I
had
sure
no
did.
idea I was going to ask that, to be honest with you. When I seen the question, it was just like and he mentioned coaches.
Yeah.
So why not just ask that question, right? I'm
Yeah. So what's
agreeing.
yours?
I'm agreeing with.
All
I'm,
right.
I'm agreeing with that. I think that is definitely a win. And to caveat first, before I go any further, let me say thank you for saying that. They know on the set. They know because I speak very highly of the Uncle Junior. You know, and it's like I can tell you just from my perspective, I've seen the Uncle Junior do this. Literally seen it myself, and I can say, and I say it in front of everybody, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of seeing the consistency in your growth track. Um, and I think it speaks volumes when you can actually see that in a person and be adult enough to tell them that in front of however many people are going to view this video. And so, in conjunction with your perspective of establishing great relationships, my small consistent win is that this relationship creates value every time we hit that play button. So when I once we get to the end and I lean back in this chair, I can say that was a good show. Like I think we created something just now that can impact some other people. And so the relationship for me has to produce a meaning for others. Like that's what I believe relationships are all about. I think a lot of time, and this is not going against anything you said because it's symbiotic. The relationship is an environment to where both parties or however many parties in this particular instance can thrive. But our relationship is unique because our relationship is valuable for other people, which is in essence what I think the core competency of relationship is all about. I know a lot of times we hear, like going back to the prophet Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately, right? But that's backwards. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be what have I done for you lately, right? And if I can't see where I've done anything, now I got to go back and question my value in said relationship. Well, our relationship generated Coach's Corner, and Coach's Corner generates, in our opinion, well, let me say it this way, in my opinion, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm almost certain you're going to say the same thing. In my opinion, I believe Coach's Corner creates value for other people, for other people, and that's based upon not just the feedback that I get from others, but also that real quick assessment when I sit back in my chair and cross my arms. And I say, I think people got a lot out of that conversation. I think that's important when it comes down to what we're doing, whether it's one individual working on their business venture or whether we're talking a husband and a wife in a relationship. Even in the space of relationship, I should be able to sit back and assess to see the value that I'm adding in this relationship. And if I can't pinpoint, again, goal, milestones, benchmarks. If I can't pinpoint that I am adding value to said relationship, then I need to go back and reassess my behavior in said relationship or question whether I need to be in said relationship. It's
Mm.
just that simple. Questioning is always the last resort, right? I think everybody has the opportunity to change based upon what they observe about themselves. But a lot of times we're conditioned to observe what somebody else is doing before we address what it is that we're doing. So at the end of the day, going back to the aspect of exercising, we will blame all of the outside distractors. I got this going on. I got that going on. You know, Garfield.
Somebody keep bringing food in the house.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Garfield called me during my gym time, and that kind
Yep.
of. Let me tell you something about this young man over here. We was trying to get our schedule together. He said, "Hey, I go to gym at 5. I got it, bro. I'm not gonna touch it." But I appreciate him doing that because
Yep.
it helps me to understand what time I cannot touch. But then
Mm-hmm.
he knows that I also have this thing in the back of my head. I need to also understand the time that I know that he has dedicated to spend with his wife because I refuse to touch that. I think that's what relationship is all about. Understanding what another person's priority is and honoring that priority to such a degree that that is sacred time to them. And so I love your response and I love the fact that our response connected as well. But I love your response to this question because it helps, I believe, others to understand that relationship is not just something I'm supposed to exist in. It's something that I'm supposed to exist in and add value to, Don't
Hmm.
just expect value to come to me. So that
Yeah.
was my very long-winded response.
Man, I liked it. And I know we're off topic, but we're not at the same time. Um you said something about seeing the growth in me. Literally this morning I was thinking about that, and I'm just like, I don't want to come off as sounding like I'm repeating the same talking points every single week and every single Friday and every single show. So I was like, well, how do I prevent that? And I was like, well, you keep putting in new information. But I'm just like, well, I'm consuming new information all the time. So then it lets me know, you just confirmed that even though I may not see the growth in myself, it's important sometimes to have other people. And if other people can recognize it, especially someone who you may trust, or who who is capable of being able to see that. So, my wife may be able to look at these YouTube videos and that we do every single week on Tuesdays and Fridays and say, "Oh yeah, babe, I've seen you grow." You know what I mean? And she's my wife. She's going to see certain things. We have a very intimate relationship. So we see certain things, a lot of times before other people do.
Yep.
But when other people can see that in you too, it just that goes to confirm that I'm at least on the right path. I'm on the right track, because my goal is to continue to be a what do people like to call it, a lifelong learner. I really want to be a lifelong learner. I
Yeah.
really try to purposely not try. I purposely put knowledge and information on in me. I want to say daily. I don't think there's a day to go by that I don't listen to something that can be beneficial to me either now or in the future and help me make better decisions. So I'm glad you see that, man. I'm glad that's something that you have noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad I was allowed to witness it. That's
Yeah.
that's the other part. I'm very appreciative of that, and I think a lot of times some people they don't experience the joys of seeing the growth of somebody else outside of their house, because they don't necessarily have that kind of relationship. They have a
Mm.
relationship that says, "Oh, well, I work with this person. That's great. Well, I've seen that person grow. What does that mean? They got a promotion? Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does growth look like in a work setting, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we don't necessarily have those relationships, those valuable relationships outside of work a lot of times, and
Mm-hmm.
so some people never get the opportunity to see another person grow.
They just
But
see that you're different, and now they don't like you.
exactly, that's what I was about to get. They see that you're different. They see that you're acting different,
Yeah.
and they see now, because you're acting different, we're not compatible. But
Yeah.
is it that you're not compatible, or is it that that person went on an extreme growth pattern because they became intentional in their life, and
And you didn't grow.
and
You got
you,
left behind.
I won't say didn't. I will say that you took the approach that says evolution is available, and therefore, as the times change, so will I, because that's
Well,
part
Coach being nice to y'all tonight. He being nice. He
of.
being nice to
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah. But I think that's true as well, though. I really
Yeah.
do. I think times force you to grow, and if
Yeah.
you choose to do nothing, then something happens, and that's why I made the mention previously about the whole weight loss thing,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some people who live the sedentary life.
Mm-hmm.
And because they live the sedentary life, life caught up with them and said, "Hey, you are now a diabetic," or
Yep.
"Hey, you now are being threatened with heart disease," or "Hey, like these things happen. So now I have to go on a weight loss journey."
Yep.
That now becomes a meaningful goal for you. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because your life add meaning to the goal. That's why I say when we start talking about meaningful goal, you have to assign meaning. Well, when your life assigns meaning to it on the negative side, then you don't have a choice but to do it. Like
Mm.
every day is like, I hate to say it this way, every day is Groundhog Day. There is no option anymore. On
Yeah.
the positive side, when life assigns meaning to it, we're talking about purpose now. We're talking about vision.
Purpose.
We're
Yes.
talking about what you're
Your
called.
why.
Bingo. So when
Meaning.
that happens, it's much more enjoyable to be in that space as opposed to being in a space to where your life is being threatened because you
Hmm.
yourself have elected to let life pass you by.
Man, I'm over here looking at these questions and I'm just like, I think we done already kind of been through some of these, like just through talking. And I think that's a good thing because one of the questions we're not going to go about it. One is many avoid setting goals due to past failures. How can you reframe failure to build confidence in your new goals? Like we talked about that already, so there ain't no need in going over there. I think this is a good one. Um, I think this is a good one.
Hmm.
As we move on, because I know a lot of people who do this, and honestly, for the first time in my life, when I was at the gym this morning, I thought about a vision board.
Hmm.
I plan. I never thought about a vision board. So, and I thought about me and Shale going and doing a vision board. But who knows? How
Yeah.
can visualization. There you go. I'm gonna say it again. How can visualization? Oh man, I'm gonna do it. I got y'all chat. Here we go. How can visualizing your goals through vision boards, planners, or journaling make them more attainable?
Um, this is the work that you do toward the goals, right? This is where you either, because you talked about the image previously, right? And you used the polka dot bikini song as an
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can use things as like potential outcomes
Like
for
tangible things.
sure.
Like
Yeah. And what people will tell you to do is get a picture of the thing that you want.
mm-hmm.
That's a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a way. I'm not so much of getting the picture of the thing that you want as much as I am of getting a mental picture of who you become. Because you becoming the person to be able to accomplish the goal is more important than the thing that you're going to be able to buy once you accomplish the goal. Like again, I don't want to speak to the lower version of any person. I want to speak to the higher version of that person. I want to speak to the person that gets more excited about becoming the person that can accomplish the goal as opposed to the person that can reap the benefits of accomplishing a goal. So when we start talking vision boards, I think vision boards are important because it allows you to put in writing what you visualize in your head in the direction of becoming the person that you need to become to accomplish their goals, right? Planners, again, that gets after those particular benchmarks, right? You put the benchmarks in your planner and then you backwards plan, right, by time blocking activities to hit the benchmarks. Journaling, I think the best way to use journaling is in the evenings before you call it a night. And what am I journaling? I am journaling the most important aspects of my day that allows me to reflect fully on what happened during the day. This is where I talk positively about emotions. See, most people believe that I am totally against emotions. I'm not. I'm just totally against emotions used the wrong way. But when we go back and look at those things that we time block, when I did this, how did I feel after accomplishment? Did I give it my best or did I just accomplish it? Because both of those things happen in the space of accomplishing tasks. Sometimes we accomplish tasks just to get it done, right? But sometimes we accomplish tasks with purpose, meaning, and vigor. So now, in the midst of accomplishing a task, kind of like what we just talked about just now with the episode of Coach's Corner, when I sit
Mm-hmm.
back, not only did we accomplish that task, I feel good about it. I feel
Yeah.
really good about that just like this episode right here. We're not even finished, and I feel good about this episode. I'm just being transparent. But that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I journal at the end of the night. I journal the fact that when I recorded Coach's Corner, when we recorded Coach's Corner today, I felt really good about that. Why did I feel good about it? This is now we're getting down to the important part. Why did I feel good about it? Because I
Wow.
believe we left people with something that was meaningful. Like they could listen to that episode, and not only did they get information, but they got the heart of the people that gave the information. Okay. Why do you think that's important? Because nobody wants to follow a person that's not authentic. So now when you get down to journaling in that aspect, now what is the purpose? What am I looking to extract from that? I'm looking to extract the answers to the questions that I asked myself as I was journaling. See, most people just tell you to journal. Like, oh, just journal. What does that
Yeah.
mean? I don't know. I'm just journaling. I'm writing down the things I accomplished during the day. Well, you got a calendar for that. Your calendar should told you what you accomplished yesterday if you completed all your tasks. That just goes back to what you asked me a couple of weeks ago. Do you ever complete all your tasks? No. Really? What do you do? Well, I look at the tasks that I have, I prioritize my tasks, and I front load the priorities because I want to make sure I accomplish the priorities. The ones that are left over, they're moved to another day. So it's not that I don't accomplish the task, I just move the ones that are of lower priority. So now all of the high priority tasks get accomplished. Well, guess what those high priority tasks are attached to? They're attached to the milestone that I'm working towards because these are the benchmarks that I'm looking to hit. So now, when you put them all together, the vision board is all about how I'm going to do the thing. The planner gives me the details that I need to do on a day-to-day basis, and the journal helps me to assess where I am within the space of achieving the goals by way of achieving the milestones and executing the benchmarks day to day.
All right. So I have a vision and I'm going to say it here first. Coach don't even know, but I was going to talk to coach about sometime this year in 2025 having a men's retreat. Right. So that is something that I've been thinking about doing for a couple of years. But I think that in 2025, I think this is the year that it is supposed to happen. And I say that for a couple of reasons. So if I am looking at this question and I am looking at getting this men's conference, this men's um, whatever I want to call it, networking event together, then the first thing to your point that needs to go in there, there needs to be a visualization. But even before then, it has to be something me. It has to be a meaningful goal, as we talked about earlier. Like, and it is a meaningful goal for me. There's a lot of great reasons why I would like to get a bunch of guys together and share knowledge and information, especially at our age, being able to share knowledge and information. But I think it may start with this, maybe the vision comes, the meaning's there, the vision's there. Now let's put it on a poster board or a sticker or on the computer and have somewhere to physically look at it. So now I know what the end goal is. All right. So there's Coach over here, and there's Gaddy, and there's Roland, and there's this person, and this person, and this person, and there's these networks and these networks. And it's about 20, 25 dudes, and we're all together. So now we know what it looks like. This is what we're going to do on Friday. This is what we're going to do on Saturday. This is what we're going to do on Sunday. Now I have to start adding some planning along with that and some journaling, or either making notes or something in order to make these things attainable. So all I did was take what you said and just give it an analogy, that makes um clearer sense to me. I understand everything you said, but I really got it when I was able to put it into something tangible, like an event or something like that. So um this is part of the process. Can you Are there other people who think differently, different ways? Absolutely. But I think for the vast majority of the general population, the reason why people get things done and the reason why people don't get things done, the reason why some people lose their weight and some people don't lose their weight is because of these steps right here. And the planning one is a big one. But there's also that word called execution or action that goes along with it as well. So you got anything in this
You must have
before we
known.
slide on?
You must have known that I did. Um, because I know, I believe in my heart
Hmm.
that somebody said, "Well, I accomplished this goal, and I didn't do all
Hmm.
that. I didn't do all
Yep.
that." Well, let me speak to that person, not harshly, but
Yeah.
honestly, because if we're not honest with ourselves, then in most cases we won't be honest with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Stubbornness accomplish goals.
Mm-hmm.
I can be so stubborn about a particular thing that I can accomplish a goal in that particular thing and then give myself the credit that I may not necessarily be deserve. Did I accomplish the goal? Yes. Now, there's more to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that goal accomplishment meaningful to me? Not because I'm projecting meaning to others, right? Just getting, I'm okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. Getting a degree, a goal accomplished. Was it meaning for me? Sure. The second one, the first one, not
Mm-hmm.
so much. I'm gonna be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
not so much. The first one was just for me to get a degree. I'm not gonna lie. I went to school and I was too stubborn to not pass. Like, sure, it tedious, right? Because I was working a full time job at the same time. But at the end of the day, in my mind, I was going to accomplish the goal. I did not put any thought into how. Here's work, do the work, here's the grade. Wash, rinse, repeat. That's stubborn. There was no meaning behind that. I just wanted the degree. For what reason? Did you use it? No, I just got it. The second time was different because there was a reason why I wanted that particular degree. And so now, not only was there meaning assigned to the actual goal, but it was also consideration on what I was going to do post. Now, some schools do a very good job in trying to get you to think that way. But if you're thinking that way before you go to the school, then the work that they're trying to do with you is very minimal. But I had meaning assigned to the degree before I even started the degree plan. So now moving forward, did I analyze how I did my work? Sure. Did I even talk with people based upon some of the things that I've done doing the work? Absolutely. One of the best things I believe I've ever done in my life is go to a AA meeting. I had to go to 4 AA meetings, and I don't care who you are, like just go and participate. Don't just be a fly on the wall. Participate. Like listen to their story. I promise you, you will change the way that you think about your life. Like listening, and I'm gonna just put this out and we can move on. There was a gentleman, and I won't give you his name, but I give you what his profession used to be. He was a nuclear engineer. Now, somebody hear that title, dollar signs automatically start flashing their head. He gave it all away for his addiction.
Mm.
So when that young man told that story, it brought me to tears because I'm like, wait, what? And so I'm not saying that he didn't have meaning for achieving his goal. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just saying that once you assign meaning to your goal, you now start having different interactions, not just interactions with what you're doing, but interactions with people with why you're doing it. So I just
Man,
want to
that's
add that part to it.
man, I appreciate you adding. That's a see, a lot of people go down that road. A lot of people who have, a lot of brains, a lot of things going for them, but end up getting caught up in addiction. So, I mean, I agree. There's a lot of people who are on the other side of the coin, and you can be humbled real quickly when you around people who really don't have everything together. Go to a third world country. I think I've mentioned something before. A lot of the problems that I have are first world problems. So, and most of the time, I really don't have anything to complain about. So like I said, I get upset because the heat might go out, or it's too hot in here, it's too cold, or somebody put too much sugar in my latte, or I'm just speaking in general, if the shoe fit. But those are some of the things that we tend to get upset and get our panties in a bunch over, when in the grand scheme of things they're really minuscule. So um but moving on, man, I'm gonna slide on and we're gonna get into these. I'm looking at the time, but we're not gonna do any true false. But I do have one or two. I got three. Let's see how many we get into. So these are scenarios. So the first one's um I was gonna call this segment "Now What" because I got three questions and they all end with "Now What," and that was on purpose. So first of all, we're gonna slide over into the relationship category. All right, so here we are with 2025, folks. You and your partner have conflicting goals. You want to focus on your career and they want to focus on spending more time together. Now what? And chat, feel free to add in your 2 cents. So this is just a scenario question, and myself and our coach, we're just gonna go through and we're gonna see what we get out of this question or this scenario. Here we go.
Well, there are two thoughts that come to my mind. The first, now what, is now you guys are in conflict.
Yep.
You may not realize it just yet, but conflict is coming. Expect
Yep.
it. Because at the end of the day, we got to understand at some point, somebody's going to make a very adult decision, right? How much longer are you going to be my partner if we're in conflict constantly? And when we have conflicting goals, constant conflict will be a thing. At some point, another adult decision may need to happen where we have conflicting goals. We need to change that from conflicting goals to collaborative goals. If we're going to stay together, then we must have collaborative goals. If we do not have collaborative goals, then we're going to end up having, I'm going to inject in other words, combating goals. If they don't collaborate, they have no other choice but to combat. And what that ends up doing is pulling two people further apart. Because trust me, my career don't really care about my spouse. They say they do. I appreciate the fact that they say they do in that moment. But at the end of the day, the career that I'm focused on is really only focused on one thing. And whatever entity that career exists in, they have a bottom line. They have a relationship that they made with the environment long before I became part of that environment. So by me getting in relationship with that career, now me and that career, we have a collaborative relationship. I show up, I put in time, they get the results of my time that equates to what they promise the environment. And so at some point, I have to recognize which relationship is more important to me. Now I got it. Depending upon who you are and how old you are, that probably went over your head like, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't want to do it. Okay, I get it. Don't worry about it. Just store it on the shelf. You're going to open it back up later. But for those people who understand what I'm talking about, trust me, this is a real thing. This happens more frequently than most people really want to believe. And it probably happened to, I can't speak for Unc, but I know it happened to me. And it probably happened to a lot of people over here in the chat as well. So again, conflicting goals will end up becoming combative motives and intents and things of that nature. And it's not that you're intentionally doing something to your partner, but you are not committed to your partner. According to the scenario, I am committed to my career.
I like it. So here's my stab at it. You and your partner have conflicting goals. You want to focus on your career and they want to focus on spending more time together. Now what? Now what? You got to go back to what coach was talking about, the other question, the visualization, the planning and the journaling, whatever like this. You have to y'all have to have a conversation and y'all have to come up with a plan if y'all plan on being together. Because like you said, like coach said, it's going to come up and it's going to come up at an inopportune time, right? Someone is going to have something to do with their career, but there's going to be a dinner engagement or there's going to be something that was already pre-planned and something's going to come up and someone's going to have to make an adjustment for their career and it's going to happen. So if you don't have a plan to how do we deal with future conflicts, when is the career and the time, or if you get a phone call or something like this, what does it look like for you to spend more time together? See what's in the other person's head, see exactly what they look like. You know what I mean? Because after y'all talk it out, y'all may realize that y'all may not really be in conflict. Y'all really may be in collaboration. You're just looking for more space to do these certain things. I don't know. But I do think that if you have a conversation, a lot of things can possibly be brought to the surface and you can figure out a plan going forward. So that's kind of my now what on that. So for those of you who are not in a relationship, that's okay because I got something for y'all too.
Let, let
If you
me
ain't got a relationship with somebody, what's that?
now let me add one more piece to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Conversation is important, but don't have conversation just to have conversation. Like
Yeah.
all conversation is valuable. you can tell, and I can only speak for men, right? Because I'm a man. I don't know if y'all knew that already. Um, but you can tell when a man is more committed to his career, because when you ask that man how his day went, he's going to articulate to you the details about what happened at work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask that man how his day went, and he's not committed to that career, he's more committed to you over that career. His response might be, "It was fine. It was all right.
Yeah.
It was good." Right? Not going to give you the details about the job. On the other side, as a man, I'm gonna tell you the truth. If I ask you about your day, you start talking to me about your job, eventually I'm gonna listen, but eventually I'm gonna tell you, say, listen, can we talk real quick? Yeah. When I ask you about your day, I'm asking you about your day. I don't care about your job. That
Mm-hmm.
we need to get to the space in relationship where we understand that. And I think too many times people don't, because their identity is still tied to their profession.
Mm.
So when, because they believe that they are their job, they're assigning, right? They're assigning meaning to their job through the lens of who they are. When I ask you about your day, you start telling me how awesome you was at work. That means something to your boss. I am asking you about you, right? How was your day? I don't want to know how the job received you. That's totally different. So I just kind of want to put that out. I know some people
Mm.
don't necessarily agree with that, don't necessarily like that. I got it. I understand that. But ask other people and see what their takes on it. Like don't ask a person that's just like you. Don't ask that person. If you got another career oriented person, then when you ask that person that question, then they're going to decide exactly what you're saying. Ask a relationship committed person. It's not that people who are committed to relationship don't really care about your job, but when all you talk about is your job, what you're telling them is what you're committed to.
I get it. I definitely understand that. Definitely understand that perspective. Um, for those who like to hang out with their homies and their friends, I got something for y'all too. So here's a scenario for y'all folks. For the current year, you have decided to reduce spending. However, your circle of friends and family like to hang out and spend money. Now what?
Well, two things: hang out with them and don't reduce spending, or find some new friends and family to hang with.
There you go.
Whichever one is more important to you. I'm just going to be honest with you. If I have decided, there are no other options. So
Yep.
that circle of friends that want to hang out and spend money, they can still hang out and spend money. I may even still give them conversation from time to time, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get as much as my time as they used to get, because I have no desire to do those things. So once I decide, and that word is important because it means to cut off all other options. Once I decide to do a thing, then anything that goes against what I decide to do with my life becomes a distraction based upon that decision point. Not that they themselves are a distraction. They're not doing anything. Well, let me say it this way: they're not making me do anything I didn't want to do in the beginning. I
Correct.
wanted to hang out in the beginning. I wanted to spend money. But now I have a new goal, and that new goal is to reduce my spending habits for whatever reason. Well, that reason is the meaning to me reducing my spending habits. So if that's the case, I need to change my circle of friends.
I like you brought that back to the meaning. I saw what you did.
My bad.
Um, definitely, man. I agree. And if you have to, you can do it however you want to. You can tell your friends, and if they are really true your friends, they're going to respect that and they're going to be okay with it. They're like, dang, coach, I get it. Coach ain't trying to hang out and he trying to go to the club and make it rain this year. I got it. Coach trying to save for a house, whatever. Like if we friends, it shouldn't be any issue. If we family, it shouldn't be any issue. You shouldn't be throwing back up in my face. How come I didn't go to the whatever family event that we had? The fifth one of the year, because I'm just saying, I'm not going to make every family event. I'm not going to make every birthday, and when I mean family event, I mean like throughout the course of the year, there's a lot of different things that may go on. Someone may have a 50th birthday party, two or three nieces and nephews may graduate from high school. Someone else may be graduating from the military. So when you have an extended family, there's a lot of different things that go on. we can't go to every single thing. You know what I mean? We have lives up in here too. So if my friends can't respect the fact that we're over here and we're trying to reduce our spending, then maybe it's time to get some new friends, or maybe eventually those friends will stop wanting to hang because they may be getting tired of wanting to do free stuff. So
That's it.
because we can still hang, but maybe we can do some free stuff too. You know, we always go to the club with you. Maybe you can get up with me one morning. We all stay up late, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, drinking and making it rain. Maybe one time you can get up with me about 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's go for a run.
There you go.
Yeah, bring you into my circle.
There you go. I want
So
to put my own kids through college. I'm tired of putting other
my
people.
own kids through college. Exactly. Exactly. And I want to be around here so I can enjoy them.
Yeah, man.
Folks, we almost done. This is the last one. We're not going to do our actionable advice tonight. We're going to get into this last little goal right now because I think it's something that a lot of people get into. I've gotten into it this space myself, where we write down a whole bunch of honeydew lists or a whole bunch of things we want to accomplish, and next thing you know, we find ourselves overwhelmed. So now is it you've written a list of goals, you sat around at the end of the year, December 31st, January 1st, whatever, and said, hey, well, you know what? These are all of the goals that I want to try to tackle in 2025. You know, so now you've written a list of goals. Now you feel overwhelmed by trying to tackle everything at once. Now what?
Um, I would say that this is probably more common than most people realize. Um, the problem is that, how can I say this? The problem is that we did not necessarily plan for goal accomplishment. We just wrote down a list of goals and said, this is what I want to do. But at the end of the day, did you reverse engineer your goals? If you reverse engineered your goals, you would have realized you don't have enough time in 1 year to do all those goals. That should have been a trigger for you to move some of those other goals to 2026. The reason why you're overwhelmed is because you've put too much on your plate and you realize that I can't do all this. So again, go back to listen to what I said previously about goal setting and how to set goals effectively. And then realize that when you set goals effectively, that reduces that feeling of anxiety, that removes the possibilities of you being overwhelmed. And who knows, maybe you can still go make it rain like once every 3 months.
I mean, hey, it's balance. You know,
Hmm.
maybe if that's the type of person you are and you like to make it rain, I get it. Go make it rain.
I just brought
Do it
that up. We were just
within,
talking about that, man. I'm sorry.
yeah. I know, but I'm just saying we could take out make it rain and put any other habit that someone may have where they spend their money on, you know, and it's like do it, but you know, I don't know. But it's a lot of it's a lot. It's hard, you know, when you have written down a whole bunch of things and you look at that list and you're like, darn. But it's kind of the same thing when people say, how do you eat an elephant? You know, one bite at a time. You know, you have to realize that you're not going to get through that whole elephant by January the 31st or 30th. I don't know how many days in January. Um, so you have to be okay with that. But a lot of this comes back to the mindset you have and what coach was talking about when you come up with the goals and stuff like that. Like, why are you putting all these goals down here? Are these goals meaningful to you? You know, why do you have 47 goals that you're trying to accomplish in fitness, but you've never worked out before? You know, maybe just put a 5K and a 10K down for the whole year. You know, you don't have to put ultra marathon down there and you've never ran before. If that's what you want to do, fine. But if you put that on there, you need to have a plan for coming from the couch to an ultra marathon in 1 year, you know? So I think sometimes the overwhelming comes from not having a solid plan or not having goals that have been really thought out. So I think those may be some of the things. So man, coach, man, it's been a great episode, man. I enjoyed it. We went over a little bit, but I think, you know, goals, you know, we talk about goals all the time. Where we are in our life right now is a direct correlation to having goals and accomplishing goals and, you know, in our lives. And we understand how beneficial it is to have very well thought out goals with benchmarks and planning and all of these different things that go into the completion of a goal. So, but I don't know, man. I just want to thank you for being able to have this conversation with you. The first part of the year is a good way to start off the year. I believe this year one of the things I wanted to focus on was starting the year off with family and friends. And when I mean starting the year off, it don't necessarily mean January 1st. Within the first couple of days or first couple of weeks, even the first month, is kind of how I see starting off the year.
Yeah,
And regardless of whether you want to new year, new goal, you don't believe in it, that's fine. I don't care if your new year starts whatever day you start. If you start on um April the 30th, April the 20th, and that's the first day you start, that's when your new year of your new life starts. So
absolutely.
what else you got, man?
Here's what I got: 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except February.
Uh, I was supposed to learn that a long time ago,
Hey,
man.
man,
I still didn't learn it.
I'm
Then I
joking.
heard it was one that you can do with the knuckles or something like
I've
that
never,
too.
I've never done that one. I remember that
Yeah.
from, elementary school.
Mm.
As it pertains to this particular conversation, like you said, there's some people who believe in New Year's resolutions and whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that person is wrong. That's their choice. Um, but I think we can focus on goals at any time.
Hmm.
We can establish goals at any time. I say if the opportunity is available for you to create goals for yourself, then don't take that for granted. Create goals for yourself. When you don't create goals for yourself, the only thing that's left is for life to happen to you. And when life happens to you, now you're going to be forced the goal that life gives you. You don't want to be in that position. Be in a position where you get to decide what the outcome of your life is. And that's what goal setting is all about.
Man, I can't deny it. You don't want to me.
He's still
But
singing.
anyway, man,
He's still singing the
I
song.
can't deny it. In my head, in my head. Um, that's it, man. Next Tuesday's conversation is going to be conquering the fear of connection, how to build lasting relationships with confidence. So, ladies and gentlemen, next week, January the 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's where you will find us. And until then, we will see y'all around like a donut. Peace.